What's good, guys? Another episode of Behind the Stage. This week we have someone definitely living behind the stage, someone you probably wouldn't have seen at any event unless you actually went behind the curtain. Yeah, Paul, FunkyP, what's good?
How you doing? Yeah, how's it going, guys? Yep. Good, yeah.
Yeah, good. So for people that don't know you, give a little introduction about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Paul, FunkyP. Originally from Atlanta, so most people know that by now, hopefully. One thing people haven't realized is I've recently moved to California, so as a full-time job over at Tenno. But yeah, so basically grew up in Atlanta, East Coast guy, started all my gaming career stuff over there, and then, after got really heavy into the, professional broadcasting business, I moved over to California about a little over a year ago. Yep.
Okay. Gaming career. What sort of gaming career are we talking about?
So obviously just production side stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, like most of us in the FGC, we all started as competitors, right? But that was really probably pretty short-lived, honestly.
What game was your game?
So obviously as a Atlanta native, Tekken naturally would have been my main game. Basically, I started off, as most people do in our community, Tekken was huge in the arcades that we had access to down there. So basically, you just walk in anywhere, find a Tekken cab. Tons of people probably already playing it. So I started off with Tekken 4 was my first Tekken game. And then I really got serious into it when Tekken 5 came out. So that was probably the most accessible, popular game at our local arcades and movie theaters and stuff like that. So I got really into that. And then how I basically found the local FGC is me and my friends, we all had started a school club for Melee. For Smash Melee.
Okay.
My friends were all Melee players. I wasn't much good at it, but y'all want to play games with your friends.
Yeah.
So we had a club, and then shortly after the release of Tekken 5 DR, which was effectively my main game at the time, Brawl had come out. So our club decided to host a tournament. And a good handful of Brawl players or former Melee players now trying to get into Brawl came out, and we kind of all collectively did not like the game.
Oh, okay.
This tournament. We were just the Brawl is not it. It's not Melee. And to me, I was at that point for me personally, I was just I don't like Smash at all. I wasn't good at Melee. I absolutely don't like Brawl. So I was asking some of the other guys, hey, does anyone here play Tekken or anything like that? And one of the guys directed me to a local event, a local venue we called Waba Games at the time. It was a ping pong place that hosted Melee tournaments, but also fighting games as well. So I kind of put that. This was in 2008, right? So this is what all just came out. Street Fighter 4 had not come out yet.
No.
And I kind of put that to the side because I was deep into university and all that stuff. And then Street Fighter 4 came out, and as we all did, all the 09ers at the time, we got really heavy into it. I got pretty deep into it. I was okay, I'm getting serious about Street Fighter 4. It's time to come out to the local, meet all the guys there. And then, started playing a lot of Street Fighter. Started playing a lot of Blaze Blue. Blaze Blue had just come out at the time as well.
Yeah.
So going to the local for Street Fighter 4 introduced me to all the Blaze Blue players who I ended up becoming some of my closest friends and stuff. So we got really serious into Blaze Blue. That was probably my most competitive game, I would say. So we got serious into Blaze Blue, started traveling, started hosting locals for ourselves at the university. And then, we basically kind of started a our own local for Blaze Blue players, but it opened up to a lot of other games. And it was open to anyone that could come by. So we kind of just, I'm not going to say I started a scene over there, but basically it was a lot of people that were kind of disconnected, who are all anime players, Guilty Gear players, Street Fighter, Tekken players. We kind of just all gathered at Georgia Tech, our local university at the time. And because it was a centralized place that was easily accessible, and we kind of started a little scene right there.
Yeah, amazing.
Kind of just really expanded from there. And then what really kickstarted it is, we were just playing games, right? So streaming, it just started popping up, right? Everyone just started getting into streaming. We were really into, Team Spooky. He was basically the inspiration for everyone over here. We were watching his streams. I was like, oh, that's cool. New York, they got a spot up there. They're showing everyone how good they are. We think we're good. Like, we down here, we think we're pretty hot shit, but no one else knows, right? Because we don't got a stream or anything. We got to show people that we're pretty hot, because final round, the local Atlanta tournament at the time was one of the biggest tournaments in the States completely. Everyone would come down to final round. The northern people, people from the north, people from the west coast, all over the country, all over the world. Japanese players would come out to that. Yeah. So, like, how does a premier tournament not have a local scene we can show off? And so basically that influenced me to start streaming from our local venue. Okay,
and so that's where you cut your teeth. That's where you learn.
Yeah. So it was just first really casual. I was just picking stuff up from a lot of stuff that was posted on the internet. The SRK forums were incredibly pivotal, not only to me, but I mean really most of the community. So much information was shared there. There was a wealth of information to help people get into streaming and stuff like that. So we kind of just made a network of people just sharing tech on how to stream, because it was basically so new and emergent at the time. Anytime we discover some new tech to make streaming more convenient for us, we'd all share it through the SRK forums and stuff like that.
Yeah. And as an owner myself, respect. Back in those days, Twitch wasn't Twitch yet. It was still Justin.tv, right?
Right, yeah. So a lot of us started on Justin. I was a Justin streamer as well.
Wild times. Absolutely fucking wild times, because anything went. There was no real regulation, I guess.
Oh, yeah. It was for all. We could have said anything we wanted. We showed anything we wanted. It was pretty wild. Yeah, it was the Wild West out there.
Oh, definitely. It was amazing. So I've got a couple of questions just off from that. Street Fighter 4 and BlazBlue, what were your mains? What characters were your mains?
So Street Fighter 4, I originally started vanilla using Abel, because he was the new character. He looked really cool. And it was a lot of our locals at the time initially were a lot of Ryu's and the Fireball players, right? A lot of Shotos. So obviously Abel is the direct counter to that in vanilla. And then as time went on, when Super came out, it started shifting to other characters that beat the shit out of Abel. So I swapped a lot. I ended up going to Guile, I think, and Super, who was really good. Yeah. AE came out. I switched over to Kami. I'm not a character loyalist. I always try to follow the meta of whoever's. I want to win, right? We all want to win. So I have zero qualms about picking a top tier, right? Because that's how we rolled back then.
Oh yeah, 100%. What about BlazBlue?
BlazBlue, that's a different story. So for BlazBlue, I stuck with Noelle originally, because in first iteration CT, she was not particularly great, but as with all characters in that game, she had some broken stuff.
Oh yeah,
really, really broken stuff. So I just picked her. She had lots of crazy, loop combos, lots of really high damage stuff.
Yeah, the high lows, left rights with the butterfly as well. It was dark.
Stuff like that was really strong against the local community at the time.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, I think it was... Ultimately, I switched to Light G because there was a version where she was just terrible, or Noelle was just terrible, right? Unplayably bad.
Yeah.
So I had to pick a top tier there. And then basically, I stuck... basically flip-flop between Noelle and Light G, depending on who was better at that certain iteration.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I am somewhat of a character loyalist, so Street Fighter 4 was Sakura all the way through.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And then BlazBlue, only played CT, and for whatever dumbass reason I had, I thought Iron Taiga looked amazing. I could never pull off a 360 or 1080, so I could never pull off all the grappling moves. But Taker was fun, so that was my sort of jam there. So
that's the funny thing is we had a handful of really, really excellent local Taker players.
Yeah.
But Noel had like an infinite on him, so that heavily swayed me in using that character.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, if I gotta figure out a way to be Taker because they're doing really well down here. Noel can just hit him with this thing and then the match is over.
Yeah.
So,
big bodies. That's the curse of a big body. We can do damage, but once you're in, that's it. We're locked in. So yeah, you started streaming out in Atlanta. Basically, created a local for I wouldn't say misfits, but for the anime players, for Street Fighter players, Tekken. Build that up, and you've mentioned Shoryuken SRK forums. That was like it's not been revived just yet, as far as I know, but it was basically the place to get all your information for whatever fighting game and tech that you needed to, with basically from the world.
Yeah, it was a completely centralized hub for effectively the entire community, regardless of whatever game or wherever you're located. It was incredibly pivotal in the growth of our entire scene.
Definitely. And I don't think someone will just correct me here. You can correct me here. I don't think we've had anything close to what SRK forums did for us.
Right. It's all pretty decentralized now with like Discord. It's very fragmented over Discord, and then when people post stuff on Twitter, it's very fleeting. So a lot of that stuff gets kind of lost.
Yeah, and it's a thankless job. So trying to keep a forum up, trying to keep anything up. But speaking of thankless jobs, I just had a quick look. So you are a stream director for 10O Media.
Yeah, so we call them technical directors, but it's a lot of hats that we wear, right? So yeah, I'll be directing a stream, but we can take on pretty much any role. You saw me at VSF last year I showed up as a producer, so I basically oversaw the Tekken stream over there, and I'll be back again in a week or so.
In a week, I'll see you in a week.
Yeah. Yep.
So talk to me, tell people, like you guys wear so many hats, probably not through any want from yourselves, but just because there's a lot of stuff to do, right? And there's just so much to do. So talk me through what a technical director, stream director, producer does. So for example, I keep using Combo Breaker in the last few podcast episodes I've done. So so you mentioned Tekken versus fighting. You guys have been streaming a lot of Tekken World Tour. I think I saw you guys this year, first off at Combo Breaker, but you had events a week before that, 2 weeks before that, and then you went on a massive tour around the world and basically ended up back up at EVO. So talk to me about an event for Tekken that you are a technical director for. What happens?
Yeah, so, to basically a technical director, we say he's the guy that pushes the buttons, right? So we know what a stream deck is. We hit the buttons, we get the scenes to appear on the broadcast. What you see on the broadcast on the stream is basically the technical director is the one that's making that happen, right? So, say I'll show up to an event, and as a technical director, I'm setting up a lot of the tech, obviously. So I set up the broadcast machine. We call them encoders. So that's the PC that's pushing out the stream. I'll set up the cameras, make sure all the looks are good, make sure all the framing is great. We'll set up the tech on the stage most of the time. So like the PlayStation, which is the Tekken World Tour standard, we'll make sure the PlayStation's set up properly. So make sure all the settings are correct and make sure we don't have any we try to nail down the settings as best as possible to maintain both competitive integrity as well as ensuring that it makes it back to the broadcast machine smoothly and all that stuff. And then, a lot of the behind the scenes stuff is also, a lot of what you hear, what you see, like we grab all the inputs, video inputs to the machine, make sure we can see the game, all the cameras correctly. We'll set up the audio stuff, mixers, make sure cabling is run properly all over the place, set up commentary headsets, stuff like that, make sure they can hear back and forth. On our side, we do a pretty extensive like tech setup. Some other streams might be a little bit more compact, especially when we're on the go, especially internationally. So they'll be a little bit more compact. Whereas for us, for domestic events, like a CEO, like a combo breaker, like an Evo, will go a little bit, more out. But we try to keep it as consistent as best as possible. So yeah, for like a tour in itself, we would like to keep it as visually consistent as we possibly can, but the tech and how we do that can change depending on the equipment available we have.
Yeah.
But we do try to keep a consistent setup for our international events.
Yeah. I'm assuming you guys have like a case ready for that's labeled international, and whenever you need to fly all the way, like you just pick that case up and go.
Right. Yeah. We basically do have an international rig that's deployable at any moment. It's been on every part of this planet at this point. I want to say our travel gear has been on every continent except Antarctica. So maybe we can find some way to have that happen next year. But yeah,
so Tecmo Tour, Harada, please. Yeah. There you go. Antarctica.
But yeah, it's pretty extensive stuff. I can't really get into too many of the details of it's precisely what it is. But I can explain the layman's of like lots of computers, lots of cameras, big mixer, all that stuff. That stuff that's pretty obvious. Lighting, another thing is a
lot of things people see but don't realize is the equipment they see on stage, the setup. A lot of it is bought not in-house by the event, but by you guys as the streamer, right?
Yeah. So as the production company, we're effectively bringing in a lot of the equipment
and people.
And the venue, and people, a lot of staff, a lot of crew members.
Tecmo Tour, there was basically a stint. I say a stint. It was a long period of time. I want to say like 2.5 months, like 10 weeks, pretty much, where you guys being like the Tecmo Tour stream producer, is that the right term? I don't know. Basically running the streams for basically all master events, not dojos, but challenger and master events, or was it master and premiers? I can't remember the terming.
It's primarily master events. Occasionally, in the past, we had done some challenger events, but there are so many challenger events nowadays and so many master events as well.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to focus on showing up to master events currently.
Fair, yeah. And so with so many master events, just like I've just mentioned, you had Combo Breaker, and then basically CEO a week after, 2 weeks after. BAM.
Oh, in between, So in between Combo Breaker and CEO was BAM. Yeah. So it's Combo Breaker. And basically, as soon as Combo Breaker finished, we packed all our gears up and sent it to Australia.
Which is crazy. Time zones are a thing. It definitely fucks with your sleep schedule, jet lag, and everything else in there.
I don't even have a sleep schedule, right? I'm just immune to time zones at this point. Yeah,
the forever traveling man. So you've had Chicago, Combo Breaker, BAM, Australia, Melbourne. CEO the week after, I think it was. So
a little bit after,
Florida, that was, and then basically back-to-back events after that as well till pretty much. You had basically a week after the mix-up in France.
Oh yeah, the mix-up, and then immediately after the mix-up, we went straight to Evo.
That was it, Evo. Yeah. So you guys had so much traveling. I don't want to see the bills or the air miles because that's a lot.
And that's just me in particular. There's another stream director we have, Spencer. A lot of people either know him or don't know him because he's a lot less forward-facing than I am. But he's a lot of the heads of the tech. He's like the brains of the operation. So me and Spencer will trade off events or often go to the same event together.
I've met Spencer. He's a lovely guy. He keeps Tasty Steve, in check sometimes.
We call it Steve's a wrangler,
But Spencer, again, very knowledgeable, very smart, great guy. Everyone on the 10-0 team that I've met so far, is amazing. And if you ever do see someone wearing a 10-0 staff shirt, if they're walking quickly with intent and purpose, don't stop them. But if they're chilling after the event and they have a drink in hand, say hi, say what's good, and say thank you, and probably buy them a drink if where possible.
Because I gotta give a lot of credit to Hanzo Gonzo. He will not take credit for a lot of the work that he puts in, but it's a lot more than most people would expect. Yeah, and a lot of things basically are only possible because of the work he puts in.
Yeah, no, Hanzo, ignoring his Twitter, he is actually a very funny guy, great guy. Again, met him as well, and yeah, lovely person to actually be around. And also very knowledgeable. Like the core team, I say the core team, that sounds wrong. The team of 10-0, all of you guys are amazing and wonderful, and you guys have done so much work, which is why, like, partly why I wanted to make this podcast, not to get 10-0 on, but to have a light shown on you guys, which I know you guys don't really want because we're all backstage. But to say thank you for all the hard work you've done, because without you guys, streams wouldn't be a thing, really. We'd still be in the Justin TV era, or the early Twitch days, or Spooky still running around by himself doing the hard work. And God knows, Spooky's only one man. Like, he can't be at every event, which is why there's a company, 10-0. So props to 10-0. Lovely guys, lovely team, production company. So Paul, one question I've really got for everyone that I'm interviewing or talking to on this podcast is, what do you think you are most well known for?
Me, what I'm most well known for, it's hard to say because I've been pretty publicly inactive, even though, most people have seen me at every single event possible. Forward facing, I've been relatively inactive for the past several years, other than, so my stream, my channel is still active, but the kicker is it's not me actually streaming on my channel most of the time, because let's use Combo Breaker again as an example, where my channel is featured, but obviously I'm doing the Tekken World Tour stuff there. So a lot of events they'll use my channel because of the following I had in the past, and we'll hire other people, friends or just reliable people that we know to be able to use that channel. But yeah, back in the past, in the before times, I guess, I was really well known. I got big from Marvel 3. So my channel got really big with streaming Marvel 3, specifically from Final Round, because that at the time that was like the premier Marvel event.
Yeah.
And my channel absolutely exploded because of Marvel 3, obviously. And it definitely would not be as big, or I wouldn't be as known if it wasn't for that game and the community that helped support me. So I gotta give a lot of credit to Justin Wong and Yipes. They showed up on my stream so many times. They're such great friends, and they really helped drive a lot of attention to my channel in the Marvel days. And still to this day, they're great friends.
Yeah, and like shout out to them. I'm gonna date this right now. Like, Esports World Cup is currently going on. They're out there doing their thing. It's pretty fun to watch. Like, catch the VODs if you can. Like, because this will be in the future, which will be in the past. So Esports World Cup would have ended. But yeah, I'll rephrase that question, because something that you're known for, being part of before streaming, obviously, but in the before days, Marvel. Nowadays, you don't stream yourself. You obviously run streams. But what are you most proud of creating or doing nowadays?
What am I most proud of nowadays? That's a good question. I think the biggest accomplishment is definitely being part of Evo's production. I can't get into the big specifics of what exactly we do, and it's a massive moving machine, so I can't take credit for any singular thing. But I can just be proud of being a part of that, team.
Yeah.
Because really, I don't think people truly understand how much of a behemoth trying to run Evo is. No one really ever will. It's a huge undertaking, and the amount of man hours, the amount of staff required to do so, it's pretty insane. How much work every single person puts into an event like that, and the fact that we can say that it runs pretty like people have a good time, right? People still enjoy Evo to this day, even though it's a literal miracle every single year that it's possible to run, to be a part of. Yeah. So basically being on the broadcast, which in itself is also a massive undertaking, I can be proud of that.
Definitely. No, I would 100%, if I could speak, it's 100% agree there. Previous guests we've had, Kid Liquid, Esteban, as well as Tempest Rob, like all basically, basically getting everyone that has come off of Evo, because it is literally the biggest open bracket fighting game tournament event in the world, which is why this podcast had to be delayed quite a bit, because everyone that I wanted to get on was at Evo.
Right.
And so now that everyone is somewhat finished recovering from Evo, which is a question I've got to ask, that how's the recovery post Evo, because that is a different beast in itself. And like you said, like with so many competitors, so many people, so many man hours, Evo in itself, massive undertaking, not just for yourself, but for the whole team, for everyone that is involved. Obviously no internal details, right? Because, Tenno do a lot of stuff. But yeah, Evo running in a new venue as well must have been slightly weird, to say the least, because you guys have been in Mandalay Bay for however many years. How many Evos have you done, Paul?
My first Evo was 2016, right? So I've done each Evo since then, barring obviously during the pandemic when we didn't have any.
Yeah.
So I've basically been at Evo for a good bit of the past 8 years,
That's a long time, and you're still doing it. You still love it, hopefully, and still enjoy it. But yeah, so the question really was, have you recovered from Evo? It's been a week or so now.
Yeah, I would say I recovered pretty well from this year's Evo. We did take a good, sizable break, no straight up hard work, no real production stuff for a good week or so after.
Yeah.
So that was pretty chill, just making sure we got all our stuff back and everything's, looking clean and all the equipment's good and just basically getting back on track. But it's been relatively chill since Evo. Last year, I'm sure you knew, immediately after Evo was VSF.
Oh, yes.
Basically finished Evo. We were exhausted, and I jumped on a plane 2 or 3 days after to go to England. VSF.
Yeah, to join us in sunny, lovely Birmingham. And hopefully I'll see you again next week.
Hopefully the weather will be better this week,
Fingers crossed. It's not been too bad at the moment. I'm looking out the window. It's grey, but we've had some sunshine. We've hit low 80s recently, so hopefully the weather stays closer to mid-70s, so there's a bit of air, because again, people forget we don't do air conditioning in this country, so it does get a bit stuffy, a bit horrible. I've currently got the window shut just because of road noise and my microphone. My sound settings are trash. I need a professional to look at what I do here, because it's not good. But yeah, last year Evo, straight into versus fighting, across the pond, crazy. Also, pretty much I knew a lot of people last year also unfortunately caught COVID, and have all recovered luckily. But yeah, the whole pandemic illness, COVID is a thing, still is a thing, not was a thing.
Yep,
but is
still a thing we got to watch out for every single event. I'm pretty on point with it. Since 2001, I haven't caught it again, or 21. So yeah, since basically straight coming out of the pandemic, even traveling through all these events, making sure I mask up, making sure, I keep pretty hygienic. I've been good with avoiding it for better or for worse. Because sometimes, last minute, you got to be on call. If someone catches COVID, you got to be ready to be deployed.
That's it. And not to sound like a military operation sometimes, but yeah, being deployed is a correct term. Sometimes things happen, and you are the person that you need to be called upon.
Yep.
I was speaking to Esteban as well, and unfortunately, I had COVID. I tested positive for COVID straight after Combo Breaker, which is why I didn't really hang out with anyone. I did say hi to you, but I didn't get close to anyone. I did feel under the weather by the last day, but that's luckily not, from what I've seen and what I've heard, no one actually caught it off of me, it seems. So that was lucky and that was good. But yeah, so people mask up, wash your hands, be hygienic. And if you do feel ill, stay in the hotel room. Sucks, but don't spread germs because no one needs that or wants that. So yeah. Speaking of Evo, not too many details about the technical undertakings of basically running the biggest fighting game event ever. Speaking of mad hours, how many hours would you have put in? When did you get to Vegas for Evo?
So we all got in the Tuesday of the week of Evo, right? So the Tuesday, it's the travel day, so it's just getting in. From Wednesday all the way up to Thursday evening is just pure like setup. Yeah, tech checks, setup. We'll do rehearsals depending on the stage. So my stage had rehearsals with like talent, developers, stuff like that. But basically, it's a lot of just nonstop, setting up.
Yeah. So nonstop. So Tuesday was travel day. You get in. Wednesday, you start at 9 a.m.
Like 8 a.m. Yeah, like 8 to 10, depending on how well the venue is set up, right? So we'll try to show up as early as possible.
Sure.
Like 8, 10-ish. 10 also had a merch booth at Evo.
Yes.
That we were so say we showed up Wednesday morning and the stages aren't ready to be set up, because that's an undertaking in itself that we are just not a part of.
Yeah.
Obviously the in-house AV teams, they'll set up the stages. So while we're doing that, we were setting up our merch booth on the floor.
Yeah.
And then basically doing that until the stages are ready to go. And from the point at which the stages are ready to set up, all the way really until the start of the show, we are working on that stage constantly.
Yeah. And I've seen you guys work. It's like Evo is a behemoth, but the team themselves again is a snowball in of itself. Like once you guys start rolling, I just get to try and stay out of the way. I might ask if you need a hand and to run a cable, but like you guys know what you're doing. I don't want to mess up the system because there is always a system. So 8 to 10 a.m. depending on venue and depending on AV staff building stages. Till what time would you finish on the Wednesday?
On the Wednesday, they would hard kick us out at 10 p.m., right? So regardless of whatever our status was.
Yeah.
However, we'll probably definitely stay longer than that. I think midnight is actually when I left the whole thing.
Okay. So 8 to 10 a.m. till basically midnight, let's say. That's Wednesday. Yeah. Thursday, pretty much similar?
Very similar, yeah.
Very similar, yeah.
Luckily, most of the tech stuff is set up on Thursday. That's not always the case, but this year I'll say was the case. By Thursday noon, the tech stuff was good. So from then, we were basically just double checking all our assets, so all our video files, anything that we had to basically show on broadcast.
Yeah.
And then in the afternoon, we did a lot of rehearsals. And then the rehearsals ran pretty late into the night until, they hard kicked out all the talent at 10 p.m. And then from 10 p.m. until whatever I left is just double checking, making sure everything was smooth for when the show actually starts on Friday.
Yeah. Like the age-old phrase, right? Measure twice, cut once. Definitely for something of this undertaking. In general in life, you should probably do that anyway. I don't listen in certain things I do. On my car, for example, definitely don't do that. I really should. But yeah, measure twice, cut once. Just double checking everything that you've got, everything ready so that when you turn up Friday morning, 9 a.m., doors open. You guys have probably kicked off the stream half an hour early, like 8:30, ready to have the timers count down and just do final pre-checks before you are then locked in for the next 3 days.
Yeah, usually our call time will be like a good 2 hours before we have to start the broadcast. So like, let's say the Evo's broadcast started at 9:30 for like the downtime. We'll be there at like 7:30. Yeah.
Well,
so just for the triple check.
Yeah, just for the triple check. And 7:30 is definitely if you're lucky, probably gotten 6 hours of sleep if you're finished.
Yeah, like I will say this year was a lot better than previous years in the fact that I was able to at least get 6 hours of sleep some days. Yeah. Oftentimes it's not the case. we've been in this long enough where we've seen anything that can fail on a broadcast will fail. I've seen every point of failure possible you can imagine, even stuff that doesn't make any sense. Like sometimes OBS will throw out all kinds of weird bugs that no one's ever seen before, and we just got to discover it in the right in the thick of things and figure out how to fix it right then and there, or the machines start acting up or whatever. Vegas being in the desert, it's extremely hot. It's extremely dry. A lot of electronics don't like working out there properly. So it all manners of things possibly going wrong almost always will go wrong at Evo. It's just that kind of event.
That's fair.
This year, yeah. Luckily, this year was relatively smooth on the tech side. It was one of the technically smoother Evos I've had in a while.
Nice. I'm glad to hear that, because there's enough stress for you guys running that fucking event. So one less stress for you, have some stress for competitors. That's perfectly fine. And then so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's all event. You're there from start, 2 hours before start till close, and probably an hour post close, right? Just to triple check, like quadruple check whatever's left over for the next day. Monday, pack up.
Yeah. So basically, when the show finishes in the arena, Street Fighter Grand Finals is done, they're blowing confetti and doing the whole celebration. We have already been trying to pack up that entire time, right? So, we want to be so far along that when the celebration is over, we're almost ready to go out of there. We try to spend as little time post event packing up because we're trying to do it in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Luckily, the arena in itself is shared across many different broadcast teams. So it's not just Tenno. There's a couple more involved, and there's basically everyone. It's kind of all hands on deck kind of situation. As soon as the arena's done, we're all in there, helping out, packing up, and trying to get out of there as fast as possible. Yeah. We can do it on Monday, but no one wants to do it on Monday, right? So. We definitely want to be out there as quick as possible on Sunday.
Yeah. So, couple of questions. Side questions first. Different other production teams. Like, I know Tong TNS was doing one of Evo streams. Can you name some others if you're allowed to?
So one of the other teams we're working with, they're relatively new-ish. They consist of other previous broadcast teams, members of other broadcast teams. They're called Liquid Dogs.
Okay.
I'm not terribly. I know them, the personnel, but in terms of the company, they're relatively new to me.
Okay.
So I don't know too many details, but I can just say Liquid Dogs is a team that we worked with.
Yeah. Cool. So Liquid Dogs, TNS. Hopefully, I want to get Tong on here. He's probably one alongside yourself, it seems. Basically kept Marvel. Well, he's kept Marvel alive post-pandemic, and you were in the midst of things during the Yipes Justin Wong era of fighting, plus everyone else during then. So yeah, I do definitely want to get Tong on because he's a lovely guy. But Liquid Dogs, definitely I'll check them out. I've never heard of them, so that's new information to me. So yeah, put Monday. You've been packing up Sunday night during the event. Once the finals are over, you've got 85%. I don't want to say 90 because that seems like a high number. Of your stuff packed up.
Yeah. So in terms of broadcast equipment, we want to be 99, maybe 95% done in terms of broadcast equipment on that Sunday evening. We want it all consolidated before we leave the venue at that point. And then the rest of it is a lot of the booth stuff, a lot of our merch booth. So we'll pack that all up and put it on a semi-truck and send it back to HQ.
Yeah.
So a lot of Sunday or Monday morning was cleaning up our merch booth, packing that up, and getting everything all packed and ready to send that back.
Cool. And then do you guys fly back Monday evening, or do you guys wait till Tuesday and just have a full travel day just to say, cool, this is it, we're leaving, we're done? Or do you stay out there, stay longer?
Well, most of us will leave on Tuesday, but a good handful of us will leave on Monday. Some people like the Monday just as a complete, relax, kind of decompress situation, because finishing, the weekend or the whole, work weekend of Evo only to immediately travel the next day, that's really punishing.
It does.
So we try to use Monday to just, decompress, and then Tuesday will be our travel day. However, many people will choose to leave on Monday. I used to be that guy because I cannot stand being in Vegas longer than is required.
I'm going to say that's probably the reason, right?
Yeah, Vegas is not a hospitable place whatsoever, especially this year. But it is incredibly rough, like physically, to have done Evo only to travel immediately again a few hours after. So lately I've been choosing to leave on the Tuesday.
Fair. And yeah, this year, much like the heat wave we've had here in England, Vegas was also extremely high in the heat.
Oh, yeah.
And with the new location, I don't think there was a sort of a semi-direct path to get to the venue with shade and air conditioning.
Yeah, so depending on which hotel you stayed at, there's a covered path, but the Hilton, the Resorts World, which is where a lot of the staff stayed, had no direct path.
Oh.
So everyone that stayed in that area had to be outside for a couple minutes,
which is not what you want in that heat.
Yeah.
And
that in itself is really rough. But
I've heard some stories about the hotel directly opposite the venue.
So that's the Westgate. That's easily in general, like regardless of Evo, probably the worst hotel in Vegas, like just period. And there's a lot of horror stories this year. There's definitely been horror stories in the past. The very first year that Evo was in the Mandalay at the arena, in 2016, they had actually moved to the convention center. There was a year where Evo's floor, like the Friday and Saturday, were in the convention center, so it was in that same space. But everyone stayed at the Westgate, and there was already a lot of horror stories there, right? So we had already established, the Westgate is a terrible hotel. Let's try to avoid it as much as possible. Luckily, the following year, everything got moved to the Mandalay, so no one ever had to experience the Westgate ever again, up until this year. And enough time had passed where a new generation of players had come in, not aware of the horrors of the Westgate, and made the mistake of staying there. So, but now we know. So for the following year, we can clearly tell everyone don't go there and go to the Westgate.
I mean, I think that is definitely some knowledge that needs to be passed around. I am kind of surprised there isn't a list of hotels you should not stay at where possible for events. Westgate being one of them. But that's good to know. Like, hopefully I will make it to Vegas one year and enjoy Evo itself. Like, I've never been to Vegas. So, yeah, Westgate, definitely avoid. I will stay somewhere else. I did see a lot of videos of people taking the tunnel, the Tesla tunnel.
Yeah, there was a little tunnel that was only available, I think, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., which were hours where we're already working. Yeah. So completely unavailable to us the entire time.
That's a shame, because it looked cool, despite what you think about Elon Musk and Tesla. It looked cool and would have been an experience at least once. It
would have been convenient just to not go outside.
Yeah, that too. Air conditioning in a car is wonderful, especially when it's gassed up. So yeah, that's Evo. So you're in Tuesday, or you fly in Tuesday, you set up, you run the event, you run the gauntlet that is Evo, pack up Monday, recover somewhat in your hotel, maybe eat some food, and then fly back out Tuesday. So a full week has gone by, and you've done Evo another year. Leads on to my next question, which you've spoken about briefly earlier. So you've got your own channel that's still active. It's not technically ran by you for most events, and you mentioned that getting people friends, not family, but friends and known people, experienced people to run your channel for you to run specific tournaments or run specific streams for tournaments. What considerations do you make to get people on there? So you have obviously people you know and people you trust, but if someone has to drop out for whatever reason, you've got to build a team. What do you look for in building that team to run a stream?
Yeah, so obviously one big thing is like experience. If I've worked with them or I know that they do good work. One team I can definitely shout out that's a local Atlanta team. They're close friends of mine, team Data FGC. They will be the ones at a lot of events using my channel. They had some issues with their current Twitch channel and basically out of commission. So for a lot of events, they'll use my channel. So yeah, depending on the event, not every single event, but a good majority of the events, yeah, my homies over at Data FGC, they'll run the stream. At Combo Breaker, we just use additional 10-0 staff, so people we already know and trust will run my stream. And very rarely, I can't say it's too often, when it's outside of 10-0 or Data, we'll have another streamer who, like, I'll be relatively familiar. They'll most likely be local to the area, but luckily there's enough like solid local streamers that have the experience to be able to use a channel like that.
Yeah.
But I'll say 80% of the time it's Data, 9% of the other time it's 10-0 staff. Yeah.
Now that's fair, right? It's your own channel, it's your own brand, it's your own name. You want to have people you trust and know how to work the equipment and run a stream, and act accordingly. So,
absolutely,
what would you say to people trying to get into a production company like 10-0? Doesn't have to be 10-0, but like 10-0 or Data. What would they need? What do you think they need to learn? And so, not just being a home Twitch streamer, like, hey, chat, blah blah blah. Not be a Sajam, basically. Sajam is a great guy, but he runs his own stream. That's it. He's not looking to progress into media as such.
Right. So there's a massive difference in being like a content creator streamer, obviously, like your Sajams, and then being on production, right? Huge. I'm not going to say that the skills don't transfer over, but they're two totally different worlds, of course, right? So just being able to know how to turn on a camera and set up OBS is just one small aspect of it. I'll just give experience as a technical director because there's a lot of other roles.
Yeah.
But like in this question, right, we're trying to get into streaming. If you're getting into streaming, you're trying to be a technical director or some part of it. I can also get into details about other roles, but I'm just going to focus on this right now.
Sure.
Is how to be extremely flexible, right? Like I said at Evo, if something fails, it has the possibility of failing, it will fail. You need to be really quick on your feet about solving either tech issues or any kind of production issues, like on the spot, right? That's going to require a lot of experience. You need to have had it fail on you before to know how to fix it, right? So to do that, a lot of people, almost all of us have gotten into this because we started at the local level, right? Like I was streaming my locals, almost every single, streaming production team, a small crew that does FGC stuff, they all start off streaming locals because that's the best way to really, get your feet dirty or get your feet wet and just figure out how it goes, the small scale stuff where it's relatively like low risk, if something blows up, everyone will kind of just forgive you. It's like, oh, it's a local, it's all good. Like you just make sure we get it back up and running. But yeah, the biggest aspect of it is just problem solving. So learning how to fix broadcast issues quickly and efficiently is probably the number one thing you got to be really good at. Secondly, obviously knowing the tech, and you have to keep up to date with it. The streaming tech has been forever evolving incredibly fast, right? You have to be able to adapt to all the new tech, all the new techniques and stuff like that if you want to, be ahead of the game and keep current and all that stuff. And then, yeah, another smaller thing that I don't think is a requirement, but extremely helpful and it really makes the difference, is knowing cinematography, camera work. It's a noticeable thing, right? You, as a viewer, you can actually tell when someone knows how to set up, a camera, how to get good framing, how to get good looks versus someone just throwing a webcam on top of a monitor kind of situation, right? It makes a really stark difference that a viewer can even notice. So I will say that's not a requirement, but it's one of those things that you can definitely tell when someone does it correctly or not.
Yeah, very, very helpful. I've got a light blinding me right now because this room, I've painted it quite dark. I moved into this place basically just over a year ago, but I need the light, otherwise I'll just be completely in a dark spot. So it's not good. But yeah, that is definitely appreciated and words to understand and listen to. A, because you've done this for so long, and B, it's good information for people to have, especially if they want to get into producing a large scale stream, not just a local, not just a normal local. Getting experience is all well and fine. Is there, and you mentioned technology and also troubleshooting errors, issues with whatever fails, because everything will fail. Technology is just created to fail, I believe. It sucks. Is there like a knowledge base or anywhere aside from, like, not just apart from Googling it, but is there anything you would recommend people read up on?
I'll say 99% of everything I know is from Googling or the network of people I've worked with, right? So even though our little production is pretty niche in terms of its like FGC and esports kind of stuff, broadcasting in general is a large, wide, kind of industry, right? All the knowledge that is available out there is applicable to what we do, right? So there's a lot of trade information that you find throughout all kinds of historical production forums. Like I'm sure there's a production version of SRK out there with a lot of people that share tech, and a lot of it's readily available on the internet. So I can say a good 90% of it is available through Google. But the other 10% is like, I'm not going to call it trade secret stuff, but you have to talk to people who are experienced, right? People that have been working in either television or sports or like actual like big scale productions, because you can always learn something from them that isn't super readily available, because there's just only stuff you can only learn while out in the field.
100% agree there. It's sadly you have to learn by experiencing. Right. You can't be afraid to fail, but the failures you do have should be hopefully contained enough in a local that you have learned as much as you can there before trying to produce your versus fightings, your mix up your UFAs, your EVOs, because when you get to that stage, you should be able to fix everything. You know what the issue is. A lot
of our experience comes from just like being thrown into a fire, like, because that is the job, right? Every production can potentially just be a fire that you have to get ready to put out. And honestly, sometimes the best way to learn is just doing that, just jumping straight into a production, into a stream, and just get going and be ready that whatever will fail or go wrong will go wrong.
Yeah, it's jumping definitely out of the frying pan into the fire. God, I'm trying to sell this to people that want to be in this industry. It's very hard to right now for me. It's great.
You have to be kind of built for it.
Yeah.
It is very tough. It's very demanding. It's extremely stressful. Yeah. So obviously stress management is a good skill. It's a necessary skill. I'm not going to say it's good. You have to have good stress management to be in this industry.
Definitely. Count to 5, count to 10, take a deep breath.
Whatever you need to do, you got to clear your head and power through it.
100%. Yeah, it's being behind the stage, like watching producers, directors run the gauntlet. I've been heated, they've been heated, everyone's been heated at some points.
And another important thing to know is none of this is ever personal, right? We're, as you said, we are all heated. Everyone yelling is part of the job. Screaming at each other is just a part of the job that we just have to get accustomed to, especially as the director, because the director is the one doing the screaming. But it is never personal, right? As soon as the job is over, we're all cordial. We got the job done. We can all celebrate. We can all be happy. We can all be friends again. But the heat of the moment is definitely a thing you got to get used to in production. Yeah.
Definitely. I've been watching The Bear lately, so apologies everyone. I keep mentioning this. That is probably the best view I could give or recommend people to watch, because working the line in a kitchen, The Bear does it pretty damn well in showing you how high stress, high tempo it could be working in a kitchen. Personally, I believe it can be a similar case with directing and producing a stream.
Yeah, so like fighting games in particular is very interesting because it's probably the fastest paced esport, really, if you think about it. I've done other games, and they while they get hectic, the pace is on another level with fighting games. Just so much stuff happens so fast, and you have to be ready for anything like pop-offs, any kind of drama, any kind of crazy stuff can happen instantly, right? You have your like Woshige moments, your what are you standing up for, or like, lots of well, man, the
Hayao,
Hayao, third strike, like all that kind of stuff. It's just so wild and so unpredictable. And fighting games in particular is a very unique, a unique production to do.
Yeah.
It's just not like any other kind of esports production.
No, like you've got your Valorants. They're 30, 40-minute games with a player cam on stream, so you don't pop off really. You get the whole match. You have 30 to 40 minutes just for observers to do their thing. You direct a little bit. Street for fighting games is 3 minutes max on average.
Yeah.
This is not counting Smash or CVS2, because those games last forever. Mortal Kombat as well. I'm just going to shout that one out there because they go on forever as well in my eyes. Not World, League of Legends, Dota, those sort of games, the MOBA games, they all last forever. Fighting games, the niche that is fighting games within the esports sphere is so short compared to these other games. And being on your feet, being quick, being awake to be able to switch cameras, switch scenes is required because you do have to pay attention. So really getting exposure, doing the work, doing the legwork, doing the locals, like learning via your locals. What would be the next step of trying to break into helping a stage at a major event?
Yeah, so I'll bring up Combo Breaker. Combo Breaker is a great example because you can see all of this happening there.
Yeah.
A lot of the side stages at Combo Breaker work up from locals, right? So a lot of Chicago local events, some in previous times, Combo Breaker has brought in local streamers from other states. But like once you have an established regular local that you've been streaming, you effectively kind of make a name for yourself, or at least we know you have experience. You've been doing it, right? So when an event as large as Combo Breaker needs 10 side streams, right, we'll look at, be like, oh, who's been doing locals, like who knows how to stream a stage, right, at like a tournament, right, because that's different than streaming casuals, of course. But yeah, who can know how to stream the pace of a tournament, get the flow going, who has a team that can work together and be able to execute a stream tournament production.
Yeah.
So you'll work basically, you'll work up from a local to a regional, because as the events get bigger and have more games, more stages, they'll need the experience of those local streamers.
Yeah.
And it's really important to hire within the community, right? Because they'll know the community better. They'll know how to run the games smoothly. Whereas some extremely large productions, big esports productions, they'll have to pull people from any kind of background, right?
Yeah.
So you have a lot of sports people and TV people that work massive esports productions, but they're not, the crew member themselves might not be too familiar with that particular esport event, right?
Yeah.
So that can kind of cause some friction. Whereas within the FGC in particular, we try to keep it as much of our crew and production within the community, because overall you'll just get a better product if the people that are making the production know what it is that they're doing.
Yeah.
Or the community better.
100%. We're not going to name any names, because I don't have any. But yeah, having people outside of the fighting game community come in to help, or try and help at least, run or produce a stream or event to watch, that are basically TV people or sports people. They understand what to do. They don't understand why we do it our way.
Yeah, like they can be excellent at their particular job, but like I said, the FGC niche in particular is so unique, right? It's so different than anything else they might have done before.
Yeah, no, 100%. I had a question on the tip of my tongue. So we talked about coming up from your locals to your regionals. Basically, networking, guys. Like social media is the devil, but you should probably use it and say, "Hey, I help to do X, Y, and Z." Talk to people. Talk to. One thing I think hopefully you've all listened whilst listening to the stream, listening to this podcast. Sorry, I've realised that everyone that I've talked to have mentioned networking. Talk to people. Yeah. Talk to the attendees. Anyone that was at the event is at the event. Spend 5, 10, 15, however long you want, with a drink in hand, camera down, phone down, and just have a normal chat with everyone and anyone that is willing to talk. Don't be weird about it. We don't like that. The question I had really was, oh God, it's going to bug me now, Paul. What was you talking about beforehand? TV, streaming. It's going to annoy me now.
Yeah, other productions outside of the FGC.
Yeah, no. Oh God, this is bad. This is old age getting to me.
Yeah.
So, one question I always like to ask, but I say I like to ask the question I asked Esteban and Paul was that what sort of gear do you bring with you that isn't what they normally bring? So, for Paul, would be cameras, not anything that's not a camera. Same with Esteban, really. Paul, he's got not Paul, you're Paul. Chris Liquid has his laptop for all the social media stuff. Not a question I really need to ask you because it's black. You're sitting behind stage. Hopefully you do some stretching before and after because it's long hours sitting at a PC at a desk. But what is one thing people should know about in terms of I remember the question now. What was one thing people don't realize but should know about what you do and what other streamers do, what other producers do?
That's a good question because it's like as someone on the inside, I don't know what people on the outside do know and don't know. Yeah. So I'm sure there's a ton of stuff that we just take for granted and it's really normal for us on the production side that people just have no clue about. So it's hard to kind of
hit me because I'm someone I'm on the fence, right? I'm in and out of the behind stage. So, like, what is normal to you?
It's surprising to hear, but we run very, like, I'm not going to say corporate, but very, like, like very business-like, very, like, office-like. We use a lot of spreadsheets. We use a lot of software. We do a lot of tech stuff that isn't specifically streaming, but just scheduling. Well, there's a lot of project management. There's a lot of actual business work being done. We write a lot of emails. We make a lot of spreadsheets. Just normal day-to-day office stuff that runs businesses is integral to, obviously, as a production company, we are still a business, right? So I think people don't realize that there's still a lot of normal 9-to-5 daily business stuff that just goes on these companies that it's just regular work.
Yeah,
outside of streaming. Yeah,
I think that's a very valid and true answer because it's a business. You want it to be profitable so that everyone that works on the team gets paid, right? And getting new bids, new jobs, new requests, or loan tenders or whatever you want to call it. You all have to do, or someone has to do that business section of the business and be the suit, I guess is one way to describe it.
Yeah. So our phones are always on, our laptops are always with us. We always have to be ready to answer an email or create a spreadsheet or a document or any kind of proposal, like wherever we're at. So one example, I won't get into specific details because, it's all whatever, but like, immediately after Evo, we had other shows lined up, of course. So while I was at VSF last year, I was just working on other projects, right? So between the stream, I was still taking meetings in the United States when it's like late in the evening. We still got to do meetings. We still got to do work. We still got to, work on the next event. So every event, we're probably working on the next event in the middle of the event.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is very true. Mix up, for example, I had a lovely lunch with you guys with kebabs, French kebabs, and yeah, you and the rest of the 10 team were like, yeah, we've got a meeting at midnight local time, just because it's US daytime. So that's just a normal thing, which unfortunately sucks because you're the one that had to travel to do this part of the work and still attend these business meetings that it's a normal 9 to 5.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, like, time zones don't really have any meaning to me, right? Like, because we could be doing, we're all, many of us, all of us, we're from all over the world, right? Yeah, Logan was with us, he's from the UK. We're on the West Coast side of the States. We have East Coast members, we have people in Japan. And we're all trying to communicate all together at the same time, right? So we're all spread over all across the world, but we still need to get together and sit down and discuss and have meetings regardless of wherever we're at.
Yeah. Sucks, but also props to you guys because, it's a hell of a job to do all of that, plus the stream itself and be a stream technical director, which brings me back to my question that I've just remembered. You mentioned there are different roles whilst we were talking about building out your team and learning. What are some of these other roles that people may want to look into and be interested in?
Yeah, so I can go over a lot of the really common roles. Camera ops, a lot of people will start off as camera ops. It's pretty integral, but it's like, it's one of the more, I'm not going to say easier roles to get into, but like that's how we like kind of test people. We'll make you a camera op, just point the camera and follow the action, as we say. There are some excellent camera ops out there. And so, like, even though I say it's easy to get into, it's still, an integral role, right? A good camera op, someone who's a professional, can still, work under us as a camera op, even though, they could easily be doing it on their own time.
I'm going to throw out a name that I'm not sure was contracted to you guys, but Dink, for example, a combo breaker.
Yeah. Dink is a regular camera op for us, right? Yeah. Like he's still working with us. He'll be working with us soon enough. So he's one of our camera ops. He's a specialized camera op because he uses a steady cam rig, a mobile rig that's wireless, and he's also very active, right? So he's running all over the stage, getting all kinds of angles, getting all kinds of shots. So that's like a more specialized job.
Yeah.
So we would not throw anybody on that particular role.
Not with that amount, that cost of equipment.
Yeah.
Because,
the equipment, just knowing how to use the equipment. Dink is absolutely a professional in terms of that specialty.
100%.
So camera op is one that's pretty straightforward. We'll have stage managers. That's pretty important. A lot of tournaments need them, but stage manager basically just stays by the stage, makes sure everything is going good with the players. They'll pull information from the players. The stage manager relays us what's happening on stage back to us behind the curtain, right?
Yeah.
So they're pretty integral and just letting us be aware of, there are eyes and ears on the front of the stage. So if there's any mishaps with the players or any kind of weird things going on on the match in particular, they're the ones that handle that and relay it back to us, and we communicate back and forth between them. We tell them, hey, don't start the match yet, or like, if there's a technical issue, we have to make sure it's resolved, but we have to do it, via proxy of the stage manager, stuff like that. So that's a pretty important role. Usually a stage manager will try to get experienced people because it's a pretty involved process of knowing how to handle players and stages. So we try to get as experienced people as for that. You have replay ops occasionally. That's a pretty technical skill in itself. So generally, if we're replay opping, we want to have someone experienced because that's a pretty specialized skill. So certain events will want replays. Evo is a great example. If you watch the stream, you saw some replays happening throughout the weekend. There's software and hardware that's specifically involved with being a replay operator. So it's a completely different process than being a stream director hitting buttons. You actually have to know how to operate the replay software and hardware. So that's a pretty specialized role. We have what's called assistant directors. Basically, they're there to help with the director. So for us, it involves a lot of data management, logging matches, getting player names, making sure all the sponsored tags and countries and pronouns are all correct. That's a big goal we're trying to, implement, is just respecting player pronouns, respecting, the countries that they represent, making sure we're broadcasting, portraying the players and as respectably as we can.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty important at the end of the day. And then the assistant director will also take care of, like, a lot of events will have things coming in last minute, right? So the assistant director is kind of the buffer to a last minute request. They basically decipher it and then break it down into a fashion that can be delivered to the director without interrupting the whole broadcast.
Yeah.
So they offload a good bit of like work on there, and then they'll keep track of timing. So in the heat of things, we can lose track of time. It's important for the assistant director to keep schedule, make sure the pace is going well, make sure we nail as many matches as required per block of broadcast, or if things are running slow or too fast, the assistant director will kind of compensate that and try to make sure we get back on track, stuff like that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a lot of logistical work for the assistant director to unload off the director.
Yeah, a shared brain basically, just to deal with that process. Yeah. Cool. Okay.
And then, those are our main roles. There are many other roles involved. Like producers, that's a pretty nebulous role. They basically oversee everything, make sure everything is running properly, and they have to make sure everything looks good. And they're the ones that communicate with the client, whoever that may be, whether it be the Tekken team or Evo or whoever. They're making sure their needs are met through the broadcast, stuff like that.
Yeah, cool. Plenty of roles there. Definitely one thing I have noticed, replay ops is one thing I've not gotten myself into yet to view or watch. Obviously, I've seen replays, but seeing someone actually do the work of a replay op is interesting because I've never seen it. There's hardware and software to deal with, and knowing how to operate all that equipment. And camera ops, like you got your specialists like Dink. But generally speaking, you would have people on a tripod and a camera zooming in, out, making sure it's in focus, tracking the players, and being directed by the director backstage. Plenty of roles that people can get their teeth stuck into, not just the streaming side of things, because it's so many things, so many shoes need to be filled. It's not just one person doing all this, it's a whole team. So guys, whilst you are still listening to this, thank you. There is plenty of things to do. It's not just, hey, hit some buttons and run the stream. You've got to do a lot of cabling, a lot of legwork. It's long hours. It is enjoyable if you like that sort of thing. I find it enjoyable. I don't mind just picking up a camera, but I also like sitting behind the desk and hitting the stream buttons. But we've been going on for some time. I'm very conscious of your time, so thank you very much for coming on and joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
That's all right. It's a pleasure. I will see you in a week's time. And I will date this because we have versus fighting in a week. Should be fun. Hopefully the weather's good, and we'll try and find some nice food spots for when you land.
Yeah, certainly. I had a little bit of hard luck last time, but definitely this time let's try to make a effort of getting the good food spots.
We'll try and find some for you, because Birmingham, despite its faults, does have some decent food lying around somewhere, I'm sure. So before we cut all this off and leave, the floor is yours. You've spoken a lot, so thank you, but the floor is yours. Anything you want to shout out? Where can people find you? All of that fun jazz, if you want people to find you.
People want to find me. My main social media account is going to be Twitter, so that's ATL FunkyP. I've been getting a little bit more on Instagram lately. I think it's the same handle. Let me.
I think it is. Yeah, you've been posting a lot of pictures, which you do take some nice pictures, so you do have the eye for it still.
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, getting into photography and cinematography is very helpful in in our field. That's basically where I started from. for this particular. I was a camera photographer, videographer before I actually got into streaming. So that was a big skill that helps. But lately, I just try to take casual kind of pictures as I travel to events and kind of give if you were to come out to an event, this is kind of the experience you would have, outside of the event. I recently actually just, I'm a Fuji user, right? So that's I recently got a new travel kit.
Oh.
So this one's this is my X Pro 2.
Nice.
It's super compact.
Yeah.
So I got a new compact lens. You can see how small this whole setup is.
That
is what I'll
tiny.
primarily be using for a lot of my travel photography and street photography and stuff like that. But that's my passion, hobby kind of stuff. And all that stuff is what you'll see on Instagram. Instagram has none of the actual work I talk about on it, and it's just purely just hobby photography there. But those are my two primary accounts. I have a YouTube channel. I forget how YouTube works their naming out, conventions nowadays, but you can find my YouTube through my Twitter accounts or my Twitch streams or whatever. That's basically primarily all just past stream VODs from my channel in particular. That will be up on there, a lot of match footage. And then where else? Obviously the Twitch, FunkyP. I will very, very rarely stream casually on there if I have the time to do so. But mainly it's all tournament broadcasts and stuff on there. But yep.
Cool. Awesome. Again, thank you very much, FunkyP, for joining me on this today. I will shout out Tenno, your employers, I guess, because they've been a great team to watch, learn in both the production side as well as the stream you guys deliver. Every time I see a Tenno broadcast, it's this is quality. I'm here for the games, and I know everything's running smoothly in front of house. It might be a burning fire at the back of house for you guys, but I'm having fun, so it's all good.
Much appreciated. Yeah, thank you for having me.
That's all good, man. It's all good. So guys, thank you again for listening in on another podcast of Behind the Stage. This has been Drift with FunkyP. Please like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next episode. Peace.
Thank you, everyone.